Again, welcome to Guidepost Montessori Virtual School Elementary Program Overview. And I'm going to give you a little bit of information, how essentially we're going to follow our agenda today. I will give you a brief introduction of myself. I've introduced you to my colleagues. Both Val and Candace are here for support, but also to help answer any questions you might have. They are also Montessori specialists, and Candace is a admission specialist for the virtual school. So she knows all the ins and outs of the admissions process. Then we will have a brief overview of the program, and then we'll get into the more of the details about how to enroll and the next steps you can take relative to enrollment. And then we'll have a question and answer session at the end where you can ask questions. And if you have any thoughts at all, you can share those as well. So a little bit about myself. My name is Tricia Mosley Bach, and I have been a Montessorian for 22 years now. I've completed my American Montessori Society training through the early year certification, so that's typically 2.5 through 6-year-olds. I have been an assistant guide, a director of education, a head of school, a Montessori consultant, and I have started 3 Montessori schools in Southeast area of America, very small programs. And now I find myself at kind of the intersection, if you will, of virtual and Montessori, which is absolutely fantastic. I can do what I love, and I can do it with new families that are also interested in Montessori. I love talking to families. This is the highlight of my day. A fun fact about myself is I have moved over 25 times in my life. I love traveling, I love exploring, and I actually was able to have the incredible opportunity to visit the very first Montessori school in Italy, in Rome, Italy, and there's some pictures here of that. Casa dei Bambini. It was established in 1907, and it is still actually a current program that is still in existence. It's really, really fantastic. So a little bit about Guidepost Montessori. Guidepost Montessori mission is to implement a platform that enables every school to pursue and on a path to become a high quality, high standard of excellence Montessori program. And we realize there are some gaps in both public and private education. And our goal at Guidepost is to make high quality Montessori education available to every family and every child across the globe, which this is a great representation today of what that looks like. It just warms my heart. We have people from all over the world tuning in to learn more about us. So Guidepost is a part of a company called Higher Ground Education, which is based currently in Southern California. And our mission is to mainstream and modernize Montessori education. And we start from pregnancy. Our programs range from pregnancy all the way through high school. We partner with a brand called the Academy of Thought in Industry. So from pregnancy all the way through 6th grade, we have a Guidepost virtual program, Montessori program, and then the Academy of Thought in Industry works its way through the middle school and high school years, which is really fantastic. So we can offer it across every continuum and every age. We operate 75 schools currently, brick and mortar programs, and we serve over 4,400 children and families, which is really fantastic. I think we're getting out there and it's really exciting. So what I'm going to show you now is a short video just to introduce you, highlighting our Montessori distance learning program. And after that, we will continue on. Please let me know, Candace, if you do not hear the audio, and I will ensure that I fix that, but I think I did it earlier, so I think we're good to go.
A rigid solid becomes elastic when force is applied.
I just had a geography lesson and I got a new literature circle book. which is fun. And I've been writing my story, and with this all being digital, that's a lot easier. Even though I'm not there, like, I'm still there and doing it, like with all my friends, and I'm still able to do my work.
I love that video. I think we might have some more folks that popped in. Hi, Kathy, how are you? Brenda, nice to see you. Thanks for coming. Alyssa, thanks for coming. Welcome.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. Where are you calling from today, Alyssa? Where zooming in from?
Three Rivers, California.
Fantastic, wonderful. Thank you. We have the world represented today, that's for sure. Okay, so that was a fantastic video that essentially just introduces you to the program. And what I'd like to give you a little bit of background on our virtual school itself. So we started this program back right around the time that COVID started.
Hey, Evan.
Would everyone mind, if you wouldn't mind, please muting your microphone. Thank you so much. Started around the birth of COVID, essentially, is when our program started. And we represent all these schools all over the world, and all of our families kind of came, well, they reached out to us, they came to us and said, can you please offer something through the computer, through something virtual, because we're all at home, in shelter in place, and we really need something to continue what you've been doing with us for so many years. So the birth of the virtual school started. It's approximately 6 to 7 months old relative. I feel like COVID's been going on for years now. But we brought all of our constituents together, our program directors, our CEO, our COO, our guides, our specialists, and we really tried to form a solid Montessori program by providing Montessori materials to our families, highly trained guides that are there to support us, concierges that are there to support us, and a team that is surrounding your family to ensure your family's success at home as well as your child's. And one of the focuses that we had is we wanted to bring our six principles that we feel are very, very true and tried and true to who Dr. Montessori was and what Montessori education is. And I will briefly go over these, but I want to show you these taglines that I'm going to use, how they unfold throughout my program overview, so you can see how we unfold and these fit into the processes that we have. One is free choice. If you are Montessori parents, you know that there's freedom within limits in a Montessori program. We observe children, we give them agency in their learning, we follow their interests, what lights them up, what makes them happy, and we teach them relative to what we know they best learn from. So free choice is a very large one. Order. We do not exist in a chaotic world or a chaotic environment at school. We really try to impress that upon our children. Order is very important to children at this age, and having things that align a certain way, a schedule that makes sense to them, something that they know they can look forward to 3-4 steps ahead. Using those executive functioning skills at this age is incredibly important, and that order falls into that as well. Also, learning from peers. So you will see in our elementary program, we start with what we call lower elementary, children ages 6 to 9, and then we move up to upper elementaries, children ages 9 to 12. We bring children of different ages together because they learn from one another. You have older children who are mentors and role models for the younger children, and help teach the younger children. And then you have young children that are building those independent skills and that self-esteem and learning how to ask questions and freely ask questions in an environment that's comfortable and safe, and looking to their older peers for that. So it's really important to have that multi-age group in a Montessori program, and we've really tried to stick to that as well. Also, movement. As you know, all your elementary children, we have to move. I'm an adult and I have to move. I can't sit in front of a screen for more than about 45 minutes before I start getting fidgety. The same is for children. We do not expect them to sit all day long. We want them to feel safe and comfortable in an environment where they feel they can learn best. If that's on a wiggle ball, that's fine. If that's in a chair, if that's on the floor on a rug, that's fine. We want them to be able to move freely, excuse themselves to go to the bathroom, excuse themselves to get a drink of water. We do that as adults, and we pay that same respect to children as well. And also context. We all learn better, just humans learn better when they can contextualize what they're learning. They can pull in from prior knowledge. They understand that they might live, for example, in New Jersey, and it might be 30 degrees there, but the family in California has shorts and a t-shirt on, and the guide knows this and will teach, for example, science relative to what makes sense to your child as an individual. Because again, we learn best when we can contextualize and we understand things that we experience as people. So that is another really important facet. So now we're going to move on a little bit to the program itself. And you'll see again how I will use some of this terminology as we go along. So the elementary program is a continuation of the same program students were getting in school. This is essentially a day in life of a virtual elementary student. And as with our in-person program, our virtual program is based on meeting the needs and characteristics of the elementary child so they can flourish academically, but also socially and emotionally. And as you know, as being elementary parents, this has been a very challenging time for your child with COVID and not being able to have that interaction, that physical interaction of playing outside and creative play and movement and socialization has probably affected your child quite emotionally. So we really want to impress on you that part of our Montessori elementary program, as well as all of our guidepost programs, really focus on that socialization and that emotional literacy with your child. So what are the needs of the elementary child and what program components meet them? So I'm going to go over this with you relatively briefly, but I'm going to try to really focus on these elements because they are incredibly important to children who are at your child's stage and age of development. So children are incredibly social at this time in their life. And again, there's been a lack of that due to COVID. So we have what we call community gatherings a few times a day. And this is the time when your children can socialize. They have time to be together. They can break out in Zoom breakout rooms and have small spaces to collaborate and talk and work together on projects. We also have very small mixed age group ability-based lessons given by the trained and certified Montessori guide. He or she will pull your child and a number of other children in a small group into a Zoom breakout room while the assistant guide works with the other children, checks in on them, sees how they're doing, answers any questions, and manages the rest of the class while the guide is working with your child and a number of other students. And we really want to offer the right level of challenge to your child. So these lessons are incredibly individualized because we know every child is different and at a different stage in their development. So for example, if your child was given a math lesson and brought in with a small group of children, that math lesson would all of the children in that group are ready for that specific math lesson. However, the guide also knows the nuances of where your child is within that lesson and can ask those open-ended questions and can require that feedback from your child based on literally where your child is in the continuum of our curriculum. So again, very, very specific, and our guides are truly trained as experienced and experts to know what that looks like and how to identify it. The children also have engaging work that we want them to engage in, regular feedback, authentic accountability. We present lessons in these incredible, great stories, and these lessons arouse enthusiasm, and we demonstrate overviews. Our teachers seek to engage children and excite them and steep their curiosity so that they can grow and explore and learn. And we want that to go in a million different directions. This is not a cookie cutter, let's read our chapter, do our workbook and get it done. This really is something that allows children to flourish. They learn about dinosaurs and animals and microorganisms and how they connect via topics and through experiments. And they detail the study of folk stories and mythology, language, how we came to have language, our alphabets, our grammar, our sentence structure, and anywhere from the cave paintings to Egyptian hieroglyphics. We really study very intensely the history of mankind and get into the very scientific nomenclature of how all this unfolded from Latin to Greek letters. We get incredibly engaged with them through our history and culture lessons. We also have parents that are have complained from other programs coming in that there are too many worksheets. And we want to assure you that our program is very, very focused on keeping that to a complete and almost zero. We do not believe in worksheets unless, of course, they are given for extensions and variations and exploration and additional activities. But this is not based on a textbook and question answers and a workbook. So we really, really like this to be open-ended. And we actually also require regular feedback on progress. We develop authentic accountability by creating goal setting with your children. We have them work on journals and we meet with them and help them troubleshoot. What are your goals? How are you progressing and where are you finding stumbling blocks? So it's not just about making sure the work is getting done and we move on. That is completely opposite of how we approach our children. And the result over months is a child who's developing their skills in time management, reflection, executive functioning skills are kicking in. They're planning, they're prioritizing, they're reflecting on their learning and where they're having challenges. And of course, we partner with you. We ship materials to your home. And, we communicate with you at least once a week. You will meet with your guide at least once a week. And we really see you as a partner in this process, and more than ever than we ever have before, because you are there and we're not. And we want to strike that right balance for each family. And we offer those additional resources for you in your home. This is an example of a schedule of an elementary child. And what I would like to do is pop out of here just for a moment and see how everyone's doing and see if anyone has any questions for me thus far about our philosophy or how we approach our teaching and learning. No?
I have a question.
Sure.
It's Alicia, I guess.
Hi, Alicia. Oh, sorry. I apologize.
Sorry.
Hi, Alicia. How are you?
Sorry. So I have a 6 and a 13-year-old. So they're first and 8th grade. And my 8th grader is very much in public school and, is the cool kind of mindset and that kind of thing. Like, how does a person like that enter into this program and feel comfortable and does that make sense? Because there's already that closed off mindset.
No, that's actually a really great question. Again, we really focus on the socialization and that emotional literacy and transparency with children at this age. So we understand there are children coming into this program that have either not been in Montessori or haven't experienced a successful and thriving virtual school experience. So that is something that, again, this falls into that partnership with you, is conveying that to your guide when you are essentially placed in a room or a virtual classroom, conveying that, and you work with that guide collectively to help facilitate that transition. It's not as if we just expect him to do all what I just listed. That there's a lot going on in this process and in this program, and the guides know that, and they know they're not inheriting children that are all only been in Montessori programs. So we ask that full transparency from you. We ask that you provide the guide with past assessments. I want to say report cards, and I imagine that's also what we do, even though we don't use report cards, but we ask for all of that information, anecdotal records, any of that kind of information. You provide that to the guide. You have discussions based on where you feel your child is and where your last school felt your child is, and then you work through that process in an incredibly intentional way, so your child isn't just dropped into a program and feels completely like a fish out of water, if you will. So again, very, very, very intentional and purposeful. And that is what our guides are trained to do from, again, pregnancy all the way through high school. I feel because we are such experts in that process, it makes the learning actually almost look easier because we focus on that first, and that's not our second thought process. Second is, let's start teaching and have these children learning, but we need to know where they are first, from every facet of their life, from where they live to their social, emotional kind of, especially nowadays, perspective, how they've been doing with COVID and in not being able to interact with their peers like they should, what they have been doing during that virtual experience that they most likely are experiencing right now. So again, we take all of those into consideration very, very intentionally. Great question. I hope I helped to answer that. And I'm sorry I mispronounced your name. So what I'm going to give you here.
Excuse me.
Yes, Sue.
How do you handle the time differences? Because you mentioned California, and that's going to put us way.
No, absolutely. That's a great question. And I will get to that at the very end when we talk about our enrollment. But thank you for asking that.
Okay.
And we do hit on that. Absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share with you now a schedule of a sample of an early elementary schedule, for example. And this will actually be provided to you in a follow-up email that I'm going to be sending you. So you do not feel as if you have to write all this down. This is just an example of what a daily schedule looks like for an elementary child, individual small group lessons that meet their interest and learning level. Those two symbiotic components are incredibly important because they're not going to learn if they're not interested in it. A full class experience that builds connection and collaboration between students, and then lessons that are very responsive and adaptive to individual students. We start at 9 in the morning and we end at 3 in the afternoon. This is not a schedule that requires your child to be on a camera all day long. And we really want to emphasize this. That is not our philosophy. That is not how we feel children should learn. This is a schedule where they start with a welcome in the morning. They have those group gatherings. We call them community gatherings. I apologize. An elementary classroom is actually called an elementary community. Then you'll have lessons, a snack break, individual follow-up work. For example, you will receive a gift from us, and I'm not going to give away everything that you receive in your gift box, but one thing you will receive are a set of headphones for your child or children. These headphones are specifically used in our elementary program because our children are coming in and out, if you will, of the Zoom room throughout the day. So they might be working individually next to their computer with their headphones off. And if they have a question, they can come back in and ask the guide. So if the guide invites them to a small group lesson, the other children will either be working with the assistant guide or will be doing individual follow-up work with the learning platform that we will provide you, or in their pencil paper notebooks or journals. And then if they have a question, they can come back in and ask the guide for questions. But again, they are not responsible for being on that camera, sitting in a chair all day long. That is completely unfathomable, I feel like, to even adult, but especially a child at your children's age. We also have children that are coming in during the lunchtime. That is the only time during the day that your guide is taking a lunch break. So these children have actually a lot of them have set up times to have lunch together through the Zoom platform. One might be in Maine and one might be in in California, but they've met in their classroom, they've connected, they've started to get to know each other, and they start having those little lunch dates. So these are all of the things that we're helping to facilitate that communication, that socialization, that connection with people that these children are lacking so much. And that is incredibly important to children at this age. Again, learning from peers, that movement, that free choice of going in and having lunch with a child, or maybe doing their own thing that day. So again, children are really responsible for their own schedule, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But this again is just an example of what a daily schedule could look like for your child. Now, I'd like to talk about what we have a program. It's our online learning platform, and it's called Altitude. When you register with us, you will receive an email within a week of your start time, and it will have an Altitude account and username and password. So this is an online platform that is the hub for elementary learning. So there are playlists and cards, lessons, resources, follow-up options that can be individualized by small groups. Remember, we talked about those breakout rooms that they could go into, or through individuals. So we organize everything by subject and day, and you will have help with some of the pain points as you as parents may have experienced with the distant learning process. This is incredibly user-friendly. It is something that the guide is involved in, that you are involved in, that your child is involved in. It guides students through the continuum of our curriculum on an individual path. It keeps schedules and links very handy. It facilitates direct communication with the guide, and it tracks goals and progress for your child as an individual. What we really like about this is your child can log into Altitude, and then they find their schedule card that is given to them by their guide every morning. And then they can link into the Zoom classroom through this platform. So you're not having to have your child toggle back and forth with different computers. And you don't have to navigate through the different platforms. And children also can capture their work with a share button for the guide and also a camera button. So this again is something that you will have access to, your guide will have access to, and your child will. So you can actually see what your child is working on and how to best facilitate those lessons as well, and how to ensure that they're being held accountable for their work. So this is a really, really great opportunity for that. Something else that we have started working, our brick and mortar programs have been working with the Northwest Evaluation Association for many years now. We've started to do this in our virtual platform. So we have children that are, Montessori curriculum is based on observational assessments. It's based on developmental assessments. It's based on anecdotal assessments. It's based on information that you provide us, again, as we are a team for your child. It's based on what the child is telling us and what work they're doing within that platform. Something else that we've started providing through our virtual program is an evaluation based on mathematics, language arts, and reading. And we start at grade 3, which is the higher end of the lower elementary program. And we assess every year after that in our program. This is twice a year in the fall and the spring. So not only does it include observational and anecdotal assessments, like I said, through our program, through our Montessori curriculum, but we have partnered with Northwest Evaluation Association. They are a research-based nonprofit organization that supports students and education with assessment solutions that precisely measure growth and proficiency for the elementary child. So the benchmark occurs included in our program, again, twice a year, and it starts at 3rd and goes up every subsequent year after that. Reading, language arts, and mathematics. This is just essentially an extra set of information and assessment protocols that we provide our families, so you have an idea whether you decide to stay with us and move to a brick and mortar program, or if you decide to move on to a public program, or if you decide to homeschool, you will have these assessments available to you as well. And it essentially just shows how your child's growth and perspective is shifting and changing and growing. So I wish I had time to talk about all of the incredible lessons that I've seen in our elementary program. But what I can tell you is when you have a child that is supported by the program platform that we use, you have trained an expert guide, Montessori certified elementary trained guide, a trained assistant guide, and a family that's supporting that learning, the outcome is absolutely incredible. The things that we are seeing through this platform and through this elementary program are awe-inspiring. Children are loving to learn. They're meeting friends, they're socializing, they're making those connections. They are independent. They are accountable for their work, and they're holding themselves accountable for their work, which I don't think I did till I was in college. They're using those executive functioning skills. They're planning ahead. They're working on projects that take anywhere from a day to 6 months at a time, relative to where we allow them to take their interest and their level of learning. And you have this virtual platform that is supporting your child and your family. It is unprecedented. An example of something that I have seen in this program, and it's just a small clip into lessons that I've observed, is there was a classroom that I was observing that they were reading a chapter out of a literature book. And they were talking about the culture and the history relative to the time that this chapter was written. And a group of children got together and decided they wanted to create a play based on this chapter. So they recruited individuals in the community to be a part of the play. They wrote the script, they videoed the script, they edited the script all on their own, no help from the guide. She was there to facilitate and to support, but they figured out how to do this on their own. And then they showed it to the class as a project. And they used their family's clothes and what they had laying around the house as their costumes. And this is just an example of what we see in an elementary program and what we allow to be in an elementary program, and we support. And this is not their assignment. This is something they were doing above and beyond their altitude lessons, their guide lessons, their small group lessons. This was something they did on their own. And they took that initiative and they held themselves accountable and they held their friends accountable. And that is how we build that community and that social construct within our learning, and the importance of what that looks like. Something that I would like to share with you before we move on to the next step in the enrollment process, and Candace, if you wouldn't mind dropping this in, you also will be receiving a follow-up email from me today that has a number of attachments. So I apologize for overwhelming you if I have, but you will see a scope and sequence of our Montessori curriculum from all the way from lower elementary to upper elementary. You will see a tuition schedule attached. You will also see an FAQ document that we've created specific to our elementary program, and it will have information about altitude as well as that schedule in there. And you will also find our school calendar, because our elementary program is based on a school calendar and I believe our last day of school this year is the beginning of June 6th, I believe, the first week of June. And then there will be another opportunity to start again in the fall, or if there might be some summer programs that we offer. So I will also provide that school calendar as well. And Candace, would you please, as I got sidetracked, would you mind please dropping in the link to the altitude video? I have also provided this link. You may open it now and then save it, but it will also be in the follow-up email. It is a link to our altitude program, our learning management program. This video is absolutely fantastic. It gives you a breakdown of what the altitude program looks like, how your child will work in it, how you can access it, and it gives a better explanation of how our elementary program was developed around this process. This video is about an hour long, and it is actually embedded in our YouTube channel. And Candace, would you mind providing the actual YouTube channel itself in the chat as well? This was presented by our program folks that created our elementary program. They are guides, they are trainers, they've been in Montessori for decades and decades and decades, and they know the Montessori curriculum inside and out, and they developed this to support your child's learning and your family. It is, I think Val Washington said, it is a complete game changer. So once you see this, I think your mind's going to be blown. It is fantastic. So having said that, I would like to move on to our next steps, and then we can have some questions. We can have folks, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to talk with you. Let's see. There we go. So our next steps are completing an application form online, and you will be also provided, Candace will drop that in the chat right now as well, but my follow-up letter will also have this link embedded in it as well. It will take you directly to our enrollment form, and you will be asked to pay a deposit of $1,200 a month. Our monthly tuition is $1,200 a month in our elementary program. That initial deposit will go towards your child's last month in school with us. So you're essentially paying for your last month of school, and then you will pay monthly. We are not a contract-based virtual program. All that we ask is that you give us written notice, either to your guide or administrator, 30 days prior to your child's last day of school. So for example, if you were enrolled currently and you wanted your child's last day of school to be December 31st, we would need that written confirmation before December 1st. And then we apply that $1,200 to your last month's tuition. If you would like your child's, for example, if you sent us a memo requesting your child's last day of school to be the December 31st, and you emailed us on December 6th, for example, we would actually have to push that to the end of January. So we have that entire full month ahead of time that we will place your child's $1,200 deposit. I also want to let you know that we have a promotion going on right now that until the very end of November, November 30th, that if you register, your child's first full month of school with us will be 50% off. So that is a savings of $600, which is huge. That is an incredible incentive to sign up before the month of November is over. We do actually offer financial aid. And Candace, if you wouldn't mind also dropping in the financial aid link to our program, you will also see the financial aid link in the registration page of our website. So if you do not feel you want to open this up right now, you will also see it as an option within the registration page. We use a third-party company, and the turnaround for that application is approximately 2 weeks. And then I will be notifying you of your tuition assistance percentage for your child's tuition payment. We also will be providing you Montessori materials relative to your child's stage and age within the elementary program. These are authentic Montessori materials, and they are yours to keep. You will have them forever. And what's really great about Montessori, the Montessori materials that we will be providing you, is this is not your child receives one lesson with this material, they put it on the shelf, and they don't ever look at it again. Our materials are incredibly intentional and proven to scaffold. Every lesson builds on the last. So an initial lesson, for example, for a Montessori math lesson, your child will be able to use literally for years to come, because the lesson builds on itself. And once your child has mastered, for example, the first lesson of this material, they're ready for the second. And that is essentially how we assess. It's one of the ways we assess, is when a child has mastered a lesson, we know they're ready for the next one. And when they've mastered that one, they receive the third one, and it goes on. So these materials are built and made and were created by Dr. Montessori to scaffold, to build on itself. So you will get many, many, many weeks, months, if not years out of these materials we provide you. You do not have to return them. They are yours and your family's to keep forever. And hopefully your child will work on them for years to come. Right now, we have immediate openings in all of our elementary programs, Pacific, Eastern time, at all age levels. So if you are interested, your child potentially could start school this coming Monday. A week from today is typically we start school on a Monday. They will be entering a pre-existing classroom that probably has been in existence for a month or so. So it's not as if it's been around for 6 months. So it's a fairly new, again, we're fairly new, so our program is slowly building on itself. So you have that option. And I'm going to answer Sue's question now. Thank you again for asking that. Right now, we are working off of Pacific time and Eastern time. So for example, elementary class starts at 9 in the morning. If you are in Eastern Standard Time, you would start at 9 in the morning. If you are in Central Time, your child will start at 8 in the morning. So the Central and the Eastern work off of Eastern. And then if your child starts school at 9 Pacific Standard Time, but you live in Mountain Standard Time, your child will start at 10 Mountain Standard Time. So again, we're working off of both Pacific and Eastern. As we grow, our goal is to have classrooms that exist virtually in every time zone, but we're not quite there yet. We will be. So children this will give them a little bit of differentiation in their schedule relative to where they live. Sue, did I answer that for you? Did that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Great, perfect. We also have families though, so keep this in mind, that want their elementary children to start a little bit later in the day. So they might live in Eastern time, but they're placed in a Pacific time classroom. So you have that option as a family. Again, we do everything we possibly can to support you, your family, your life schedule, the needs of your child. For example, if your elementary child has horseback riding every morning in Eastern Standard Time, you might want to start them later in the day and work off Pacific time. So we are very, very malleable in that sense. When you are registering online, you'll be asked specifically when you want your child to start school, and we base our placement and your child's start date on that request that you make. And then you will also let us know what time zone you want to work from. So again, that's completely up to you. We have a lot of families Eastern time, but they work off Pacific time and vice versa. So that is completely up to you as a family. And we have availability in all those classes currently from first grade all the way through 6th grade.
So he could start at 8. If we're in an Eastern time, they could start in a Central time then if they wanted to. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to, and I want to, selfishly, I want to share one more screen with you because I'm very excited about this and nervous at the same time, but we have just started, within the last couple of weeks, we have started our virtual school Facebook and Instagram page. And these Guidepost had them, but not the virtual school. Well, we are going to start posting these info sessions live, which is really exciting on Facebook. My goal is to interview as many of our guides and specialists as possible. So when you're at home and I know we all scroll through during different times of the day. My time is when I have my coffee in the morning, but you will see when live events will be happening. Feel free to drop in, ask questions, my interviews, my tips and tricks for the materials. And I'm actually have access to these materials. So I'm going to be really diving in deep about the objectives and the purpose and the meaning of the materials. So this is just essentially an extension of our virtual family. And I highly recommend that you become a part of that process. You'll also meet your fellow Montessori virtual family within these social media outlets.
Trisha, I just wanted to, before we wrap up, I just wanted to mention there was a question from Michael in the chat. His question was, will you be offering any enrichment type activities or other activities like foreign languages, sciences for elementary students? So I just wanted to...
No, that's actually, thank you, Candace. That's a really great question. Currently, we are not, but we plan to. So again, we're very new and we're we're really finding our cadence with this elementary program, and we're working through what that looks like, but absolutely we will. That is our plan. And really the sky's the limit. I think it's just going to depend on scheduling and what guides are available for different things, but we're also gifted as a school family that we want to reach out and use those when it's time and when we're ready. Great question.
Thank you for answering that. And Stacy had asked as well, what is the size of the elementary community? We will be in the Pacific time zone. I believe she means the size of each classroom. I just wanted to mention that.
No, great question. Pacific time zone, again, with all of Pacific and Eastern time zone classes are no more than 25 children, if not less. We're finding we started with 25 and we've started to whittle down a little bit just because of the numbers of the children in the room. And that's one of the reasons we're opening up more classrooms, is to bring those numbers down closer to 15 to 17. Because we want to focus on that individualization and your child as an individual and as a family. Great question.
So how long of the day are they actually on Zoom with the other kids? I mean, is it a...
No, that's a great question. So you'll see in the calendar, and I'd be happy to share that again. Would you like to see it again, Sue? The calendar?
Okay.
We can look that over together as a group to give you a little better. Go ahead. Oh, sorry, Candace.
No, I apologize, Tricia, for interrupting. I just wanted to kind of circulate back to Sue's question about the time zone and just confirm, our classes start in the Eastern time zone. We don't have classes starting in the Central time zone. So if you're in the Eastern, you would be starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We don't have a 10 a.m. Central time to select.
Oh, okay.
So I apologize for clearly confusing everyone. I'll try this again. We have a 9 o'clock start time Eastern time and a 9 o'clock start time Pacific time. So if you are in the Central time, you would start at 8 in the morning with the 9 o'clock children in the Eastern time. And if you're at Mountain time, you would start at 10 in the morning with the 9 o'clock children Pacific time. Unless, of course, you wanted to shift that schedule, but that again is up to you and your family. So based on Sue's question, I'd like to look this over a little bit more with you, but from 9 to 9:30, they're in their virtual room, and this is where they have one of their community gatherings. They're connecting, a welcome, attendance, a daily schedule, and noting any special changes that are going on during the day. Then we have a small group lesson. So for example, from 9:30 to 10, Sue, if your child is receiving a guide presentation lesson, then for example, there might be another child or group of children that are not in that small group lesson that are working independently, either on their own, next to the computer with their headphones off, or they're working with a small group in a breakout room, or they're working with the assistant guide. So there is activity from 9 to 10 during that time. Then there is a small break where they get up, they go to the bathroom. This really helps with that concentration because they're going to get mentally fatigued for obvious reasons. Sure. So we allow that break. If they want to go to excuse themselves to the restroom, get a quick snack, a drink of water, they are free to do that.
So that would be a time when they'd be completely off Zoom. They would just say it's snack time, everybody leaves.
That's actually a really great question. They would still be in Zoom. They never close their computer throughout the day. They're still logged in, but they can move around. They can grab a snack, eat it with their friends. But the Zoom is open from 9 to 2 every day. They just go in and out relative to what they're assigned, what they're working on. If they're in altitude, they are on the screen, but they're using the altitude platform instead. So the guide sees them. The expectation is the guide sees them in Zoom throughout the day. So the turning their camera off or walking away without coming back in about 5 minutes, there is an expectation they're in class during that time. They just might be working independently, or they might have moved their monitor out of the way and they're doing stuff in front of the monitor, but their headphones are off. They can see, but they can't hear. And the guide can then when it's time for them to receive a lesson, for example, they've either been given a time, please come back into Zoom at 10:15 because I have a small group lesson for you to attend.
Be there in a minute.
So they're held accountable for making sure their clock says, oh, it's 10:15, I need to hop back in. So they put their headphones on and they're present again. If that gives you any kind of indication of the expectation is they're there all day long, just in and out relative to what their assignments are and what's the happenings, for example, of the school, of the program. The only time they're not in Zoom, but they still are in Zoom, if you will, they can turn their camera off, is when there's lunchtime. That's when the guide excuses him or herself. Some of the children break out in their Zoom rooms or they go have lunch with their family. Whatever they choose to do, they can log off, they can stay in and just walk away. Whatever is easiest in a sense for your child. And then the day continues throughout that way, throughout that gives you that cadence, if you will.
What happens during the outdoor time? How do they handle that?
The children go out. Some of them bring their pads out and they kick the ball together. They do. It's really neat to watch. Or they do their own thing. But the expectation is, again, that you and your child, you hold that expectation for them. So they are getting that movement in. It's so important at this age. So now one thing that's really great about this, and I'm going to pop out of here because I want to see everyone's face again, is that your child will probably need a few days of help, support, troubleshooting, signing in and out, working with the program and altitude. You will have a little bit of you'll have a meeting with your guide and essentially a onboarding for altitude. So you're not just walking in the first day of school and have no idea how to use the platform. So we really, again, very intentionally take you through steps to get you ready for that process. But your child at this age is completely capable of independence, of those executive functioning and planning skills. Time management is a big one. So they'll have their clock. They know when it's time for their lesson. They know when it's time to come back into class. They're given these directions and held accountable for them. So we are not asking or requesting or mandating that you are next to your child the entire time. They will not need you. We have a lot of children who work side by side with their parents who work from home, which is really cool to see because they both have their headphones on and they're doing their work. We have children that close the door in a little office and are on their own throughout the day. They might have a question with the computer. They pop out and bring their parent over. You'll see parents opening the door behind them just to check in to see how they're doing. But they are, the theory is they are independent and do this on their own.
Okay. Well, that's an area my son would struggle with the executive functions. So I'd hang around just to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's completely fine. We want that. You recognize that. And again, every child is different. So you want that. And I think you'll find when you start seeing the other children kind of having their own, it's infectious. And that's that social part, which is really, really beautiful to watch.
Right.
Does anyone have any questions? We have about 5 minutes left or so. Again, feel free before, I don't mean to interrupt, feel free to reach out on my Calendly link. You will receive that follow-up email, but I'm also here to help answer any questions. If I don't know the answer, I will find it out for you.
Okay. So we could email if we had more questions because I do have more and I have to go.
Absolutely. You bet. Okay. Absolutely. It was very nice to meet you, Sue.
One thing, is there like a shadow period or you just sign up for the month and then that's, I mean, like, is there a 2-week trial or you just have to go the whole month and try?
Yes, ma'am.
Actually be 2 since you got to pay for the deposit. And then...
Exactly. So it's essentially a 2-month, I just lost my language.
Minimum commitment.
Thank you. Commitment.
There.
Minimum commitment. Thank you, Candace. It was right there. I could see it in my head. A commitment, and then it's month to month after that. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And please watch that video. Again, I encourage you all to. That will give you incredible insight into that platform.
I'm coming home.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Okay.
Thank you
very much.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Where do you find the altitude video again?
Yes, ma'am. Candace has dropped a link in the chat, but I'm going to be emailing you a follow-up email and that link will be in there. Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you for that question, Barbara.
Thank you.
Of course. Lucinda or Stacy, Jay, Michael, Rebecca, Alicia. Did I get it right? Yes. Does
I
anyone
actually
else?
do have a question. Like, how do you handle kids who have specific criteria that they have to meet to move into high school or something like that? So for example, my son's in 8th grade. He has to take a constitution test to pass 8th grade in California. So if he goes with you guys, like, how does that work? Do you have?
Are you asking, that's a standardized test the state of California as a homeschool mom gives?
That's a good question. So just as we're doing distance learning, I know that through public schools, you have to. So I'm kind of thinking, like, if we try this out and he potentially misses that, which I kind of think is kind of important, but and then we decide to go back to public school. Do you know if that's a problem to re-enter into public school without those sorts of things being taken care of?
No, that's a great question. And I have a couple of answers for you. Because you're in the state of California, we have brick and mortar schools in the state of California. So you are enrolled in an existing certified and accredited private school in the state of California. So that will show on his transcript, first of all. So we have families that were asking about that relative to the homeschool option. You would not be required to sign up for California homeschool because we fall under that private school umbrella in the state. So if we have a brick and mortar in your state, that applies. If not, then it would be highly recommended by us for you to register your child through your specific state as a homeschool family or homeschool child through your state. And then we simply provide the assessments, the Northwest Association accredited assessment program. We provide those. We provide anecdotal and letters of recommendation, and we provide your child's attendance records to whether that next phase of your child's education, whether it's another private or public school. That is a great question. Specifically for you, Alicia, if that is something that you want him to have and you feel would better him going into public school, then I would reach out to your county's Board of Education and I would ask when that test is available for him to take and have him study and take it. Because again, that if that's something that's going to be required, you want him to have that to move on with his public school life. So that's going to be different from what we are giving him, but I would recommend that you touch base with either that school principal and let them know what you're doing and let them know we're a accredited private program in the state, but they're going to be in public school. What test does he have to take? And then go from there.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that helps answer your question.
It does. Thank you.
Great, perfect. Any
Trish,
more questions?
I just wanted to mention that I placed the website for the Academy of Thought and Industry, as well as the link for their information sessions. So they also will have more information about testing that we offer in our virtual middle school and high school programs.
Thank you, perfect. That's a huge focus of ours, just ensuring that transition is very seamless and easy. We understand that, we're realistic. We know we want you to stay with us and be in Montessori forever, but realistically, we know that might not happen. So we are trained and work with you to help figure out that navigation. Absolutely. Stacy, Rebecca, Michael, Jay, Lucinda, any questions?
No, thank you very much. Everything was very informative.
Good, very good. I'm glad.
Yeah, this was a great session. Thank you very much for all the information.
Of course, absolutely. Michael, how about you? How are you feeling all the way over? I'm sure it's midnight there, isn't it?
It's only 8 o'clock right now.
Oh, okay, that's not bad. Perfect.
We talked to Maria this morning.
Yes,
but,
wonderful.
Any other insights or anything about specific to the European program?
It's exactly the same. It's just in your time zone.
But is there, in terms of how many kids are interested, is there enough for a class? You know, that kind of thing.
No, that's a great question. That would be something to ask her. I am not, unless Candace, you know the answer to that. That's a great question, but that's definitely something Maria would, as the head of school in Europe, essentially our Europe school, she would have more insight into that. But I want to say 5 children to start the program.
Okay, sounds good.
Absolutely, and I really appreciate your interest. It's really exciting that we're expanding worldwide. It's just fantastic.
Well, if you're interested in opening up a brick and mortar here, we can help with that too. So.
Oh, good to know. It's great. That's what we like to hear. Yes. We know there are a lot of English speaking families over there for various reasons. So that's definitely on the forefront of our mind. Well, thank you all for coming today. I have to tell you, this is one of, I am not specifically trained in elementary, but it is one of my favorite, this is one of my favorite program overviews because I see what this is doing for children at this age. I see them, the socialization is just off the charts. They're excited, they're wanting to learn. We are genuinely interested in what they are interested in. We want to teach them what they're interested in. We want to expand their aperture for what they're interested in. And we let them go in those directions. We want them to, we encourage them to. They are starting clubs on their own, everyone. They are starting their own chess clubs and different debate clubs, and they're doing this all on their own. The elementary community is guided by a Montessori guide, but she or he's job is to encourage this connectivity and these ideas and this growth within the community. So these are all self-regulated by children. The guide did not suggest this. They just started doing it, and it is fantastic to watch and see, and they love coming to school every day. It's their thing, and it's something that they are responsible for and that they love, and they're interested in what their other friends are doing and what they're learning and where they live, and they're making those connections that I as an adult really I'm starting to have, because we have constituents all over the world, but it's fascinating. So I really thank you for coming and spending the time. It means so much to us that you found us, that you want to learn more, and please feel free to ask questions. We are here to help, answer, advise, support in any way we can. We consider ourselves a virtual family, and that is from Europe all the way to Southeast Asia. It's all over the world. So we encourage that connectivity and that help and that support with our families and our children. We know how important it is, especially right now. So thank you for coming. It, again, means a lot. It makes our hearts happy that you're as interested as you are. So I look forward to talking to you all. I look forward to communicating with you. And I can't wait to see your kiddos in our classrooms. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.